You know, we've done almost 900 episodes here on CityCast Las Vegas since we launched back in 2022. And I gotta say, today's conversation is one of my most anticipated of them all. The weather in Las Vegas can feel like a blessing and a curse, especially as we swing from bone-dry blue skies to sudden flash flood chaos in what feels like minutes. So today on CityCast Las Vegas, it is my honest pleasure to welcome local news renaissance man Nate Tannenbaum. After 25 years of covering weather for our community in his trademark bow tie, we asked Nate all of our weather-related questions, even the dumb ones. It's Tuesday, November 25th. I'm David Figler, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Nate, how you doing?
Well, David, of course, I am mostly sunny.
Nice. Oh, Nate, you know, I've been a big fan of yours forever, not just as the weatherman, but all the other things that you do in our community, including your amazing flute playing. But, you know, today we're going to talk a lot about weather. You've been the traffic anchor for the past 8 years at 8 News Now. I know that after you did cover weather for 25 big years. So from your experience, which topic frustrates or confuses locals more?
Well, that's a toss-up, David, because it can be both simultaneously. Definitely when we're having what we had last year for the first time in the history of our community, 120-degree temperature.
Yeah.
People don't like to talk about that, so that becomes a non-favorite. But on a daily basis, traffic is a lot of people's least favorite thing.
Yeah, I mean, the traffic just punches you in the face. The weather can punch you in the face, but I guess it's like, do you want to be punched in the face every now and again or every single day? Toss up. I get it. Let me ask you this. What have been some Vegas weather-related highlights in your career?
When I first got here in 1989, Las Vegas recorded the highest wind gust that has ever officially been recorded.
What was it? Do you remember?
I do remember. I remember it very well. In fact, before I tell you what the number is, there is a possibility that the wind was gusting higher that day back in August of 1989. However, the instrument that measures wind gusts lost power because of the wind gust. So it stopped at 99 miles an hour in August of 1989.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know, what's funny, Nate, is that we were going to ask you a bunch of weather-related questions from some of our listeners, and you just backed into one. So I'm going to ask you, this comes from Scott D. Is it really exceptionally windy here in Southern Nevada compared to elsewhere, or does it just seem that way?
Well, what I tell people is that one of the things no one tells you when you first move to Las Vegas is that the wind is going to be a gigantic pain in the butt for you on a much more frequent basis than you would care to experience. Yeah, it is windy here, a lot more than people think about, but I don't know that it's windier than the so-called Windy City, but it is a desert, as you know, David, so having winds to 30, 40, even 50, sometimes 60 miles an hour, it's not unusual, but it's sometimes not a lot of fun.
No, not at all. Well, what are some of the big lessons that you learned about the weather here in Las Vegas?
One of my favorites is the creation in the mid-1980s of the Clark County Regional Flood Control District.
Yes.
Have you had anybody on from the Regional Flood Control District?
We haven't, but, you know, they're screwing up my neighborhood right now, so I think we might just to answer some very hard questions from a guy who has to, you know, basically drive down Charleston every day.
Oh, well, Charleston's another nightmare, which we'll get to in another show. But the flood district was created in the mid-1980s because there was an abundance of flooding on way too much of a regular basis and so much property damage and loss of life. So the flood district has, since the mid-1980s, put in, for, you know, no other better way to put it, giant cement ponds all over town. But they're engineering wonders because underneath each and every one of these giant cement ponds, there are pipelines that go directly to Lake Mead. So it's impossible to quantify how many millions of gallons of water have not ended up in people's backyards or in what used to be the always flooding Charleston underpass.
Yeah.
Or how many lives may or may not have been saved. but I'm a big fan of the flood control district. So that's a lesson that I love. And I love to tell people that when it does rain, which has been happening more so recently than almost in a year or so, they have a map that is real time where anyone with access to the internet can see which parts of town are getting rain and which parts are not. And it's kind of, maybe I'm just a weather nerd, but it's kind of fun to see where there is rain and where there isn't rain.
I want to get your professional take on climate change. I mean, have you seen it affect Las Vegas over the years in any way?
Oh, yeah, there is no doubt about it. People such as yourself, who have been here longer than I have, may remember the days when, if Las Vegas had humidity of 10%, that was considered very muggy.
Yeah.
But in the population explosion and the explosion of lawns, which they're trying to get rid of, but swimming pools, there has been more and more moisture evaporating into the atmosphere over this hot spot in the desert. So humidity has certainly gone up.
Well, that's man-made. We did that. I mean, that's like a direct line, right? Just all the pools, all the lawns.
Yeah, but, so one of the things that I am so happy that we can at least agree that there is such a thing as climate change, because there's some folks who still have trouble with that. And we can argue, if you'd like, about what the causes of climate change may or may not be. But I like to establish the baseline that, yes, there is climate change. And I believe a lot of it has been caused by humanity. So when you talk about people and lawns and swimming pools, yeah, that we are affecting our own climate. So there has been climate change in that respect. Temperatures have been rising. So each day when you're watching the weather report on TV, because I know you are, we give the forecast high, the actual high, the morning low, and we also talk about the so-called average or normal high and low temperature for any given day.
Right.
So this is some pretty basic math. However, the average high and low temperature for every single day of the calendar year gets recalculated every decade. Mm-hmm. So when we get to 2030, the daily averages will be recalculated using the years 2020 to 2030.
Right.
So we have seen those so-called daily average highs and lows rise over the past couple of decades.
Well, let me put it this way to you, Nate. I mean, look, I don't remember there being sustained highs day after day over 110. And now this has become, this last summer accepted, kind of commonplace. What are your thoughts on the worry that eventually Las Vegas might just get too darn hot for humans? Forget about the AC.
Well, in that respect, I think Phoenix is going to say, hold my beer.
Yeah, hold my warm beer, because they're having a hard time keeping things cold there.
Right. They are warmer than we are.
Mm. So we keep our eyes on Phoenix. If they start to pass out, we need to do something quick, maybe just bug out.
So I'm looking back at my climate book, which is kind of like a little Bible for local weather people. There's a statistics page called the number of consecutive days with a specific temperature. So first place for a record high of 115 or above, it was 7 days in a row in July of last year.
Yeah, and we felt it. We felt every degree of that.
Yeah, in fact, almost all of these records. So the record for the number of days in a row with a high of 110 or above, also last year at 11 days. With a high of 100 or above, that record is 66 days. And that actually was set in 1944.
Wow. Okay. I got a question for you. I heard the term haboob for the first time, and then I lived through a very nasty one. I remember exactly where I was. I was sitting in the Beat downtown, the little coffee shop with the big glass windows.
And R.I.P. the Beat.
R.I.P. the Beat, but it looked like the apocalypse outside, and everyone's like, oh, that's a haboob. Was I just late to the game, or were haboobs late to Vegas?
They were late to Vegas. They've been around on the other side of the planet for many years. Phoenix has had a couple of haboobs that I think Las Vegas wanted to get into the haboob game.
Into the haboob business. Describe what a haboob is for those who don't know that term.
Sure. Well,
although it's a funny word.
Yeah, the other thing is that we had haboob envy.
He said haboob.
Yeah. Haboob is basically a front line of dust and sand from the surface up to upwards of thousands of feet into the air as an air mass is picking all of that dust up from one location and the weather system is moving it to another location.
So it's our version of a tornado. I mean, is that different from a sandstorm, or are they just variations on the theme?
Yeah, it's definitely not a tornado because that's a completely different animal. Okay. But a haboob is its own thing. It's in its own category. You can't really compare it to too much of anything else because there's not a whole lot of other haboobs.
I was very happy when it ended because I was like, is this our Mad Max future? Why would a haboob decide to show up here? I mean, I don't think that we asked it to come.
Right. Well, a lot of things, like flooding is not something that a lot of people ask for either. And sometimes it just comes uninvited. Haboobs are fairly rare for us, but it is just how Mom Nature is moving air masses around the planet.
You know, when it rains in Las Vegas, does it really make the roads slick? Is that an actual phenomenon, or is that one that we just make up in our minds to explain our bad behavior?
Well, there's no explaining the bad behavior, but yes, rain will make the roads slippery, even more so if there has been a sustained period of time without rain. So the first rain after a sustained dry period will literally bring up oils and gunk and that has been seeded in the pavement, and that will bring it to the surface and cause extra slippery. But then the rain itself on any day. So there's also a record for the number of consecutive days with precipitation or measurable precipitation. We're not there yet, but I think that's like 10 or 11 days.
Oh, wow.
So having rain anytime in Las Vegas, plus the fact that people aren't used to it, we get slippery.
Yeah, and we get our accidents. Here's a question.
It's not an accident, it's a crash.
It's a collision. Here's a question from one of our listeners, Nate. Do weathermen know before winter if Las Vegas is going to get snow during that given year, or is it always a surprise?
Well, my friends, the men and women of the National Weather Service, there are various different branches and offices. There's a place called the Climate Prediction Center, and they are tasked with issuing 10-day, 30-day, and even 90-day outlooks. So they will make predictions kind of vague and kind of generalized about what the next 90 days of weather will be.
How accurate are they typically? I mean, you were doing it for a long time. You saw the predictions ahead of time, the 10-day forecast, et cetera. Mm-hmm. How right on the nose were they?
We've gotten much better, but over an extended period of time, I'm still not a fan of a 7-day or in our case, an 8-day forecast because we're Channel 8. Huh?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. The technology and the advanced scientific awareness and the tools that we have now, our accuracy is much higher over a 48-hour period. Once you get past 48 hours, any little movement that wasn't foreseen in a weather model or a low-pressure system or whatever, that can change the forecast high or low temperatures or whether there will or won't be rain. So the forecast high temperature for Tuesday, November 25th, we're probably going to be pretty accurate about that. But then you go a week out into the first week of December, write down the forecast high for the first Tuesday in December, which will be December 2nd, and then the forecast high for Tuesday, December 2nd, when we get to tomorrow, Wednesday, November 26th, that forecast high for December 2nd may change.
Mm-hmm. So they get to hedge their bets. They get to recalculate their odds.
Right. Well, it's so here's another thing. The forecast modeling of the National Weather Service and any meteorological organization is really cool because the backbone of forecasting for our planet, David, is as simple as a balloon.
Simple as a balloon because the balloon goes up and takes all the data?
Correct. And all of that data is supercomputer crunched because all of the balloon launches from weather offices all over the country are going into the same mainframe computers. And so there's a meteorological snapshot of our planet twice a day, and all of that data is stored. And then there are computers that take the 7 previous days worth of data and make projections of what the next 7 days are going to be based on the previous 7 days models.
I love your enthusiasm for this. Our replacement AI weatherman robots are not going to be as exciting to me. I'm just going to say that. All right. Well, here's another one. This one's from Ricky S., who wonders, are cloud seeding projects actually going to make an impact on weather?
They are, and they have. There's not as much cloud seeding in southern Nevada, but our friends in northern Nevada have been cloud seeding for at least a decade or two, and they are seeing results. There's more rain up in northern Nevada than there is down here.
Well, that's all really interesting. Why can cloud seeding be controversial, Nate?
There are people who believe or don't believe that the government is or isn't or should or shouldn't be doing stuff. There are
to the clouds
or to anything. But
yeah.
In terms of weather people on TV, I'm sure you've heard of contrails.
Yeah.
But they are often referred to by conspiracy theorists as
chemtrails.
Correct.
Yes.
When technically there is no such thing, and they believe that chemtrails are putting thoughts into our brains or whatever. But if that were the case, which it isn't, how would that person be exempt from what the chemtrails are doing?
Mm. Well, clearly a tinfoil helmet will protect you. So that's why the cloud seeding. So cloud seeding, as I understand it, is really just sort of a technique to try to get those clouds to give up some more rain.
Well, hopefully you remember your 3rd or 4th grade weather lessons with the water cycle.
Yes.
So there's precipitation, evaporation, and condensation. So cloud seeding is an attempt to juice up the atmosphere a little bit more, so there is more precipitation so that the clouds are having more condensation.
All right. Well, Nate, I want to switch gears just to wrap up. You know, for the last 8 years, you've been the traffic anchor for 8 News Now. What do you think is the biggest traffic update that you're going to deliver in 2026?
There's going to be some more groundwork laid for Project Neon 2.0.
Oh, because 1.0 was so much fun. So explain the whole idea and what 2.0 is.
Yeah. Project Neon itself was a massive 3-year, billion-dollar-plus project, putting more lanes in on I-15, but also redoing the Spaghetti Bowl, which a lot of people go, what's that?
Yeah.
That's the
It's a one of spicy meatballs, what that was.
It's the intersection of I-15 and US 95, now known as I-11. That name came from someone who was flying overhead and looked down and said, looked like somebody.
A bowl of spaghetti.
A bowl of spaghetti. So Project Neon expanded lanes on the 95, I-11, and I-15, and it was a giant cluster for at least 3 years. Neon 2.0 is going to do sort of the same thing on the east side of I-15, from Sahara up to the Spaghetti Bowl. So there's going to be some eminent domain, there's going to be some buildings coming down, and I-15 will be expanded east on the east side, north from Sahara up to the Spaghetti Bowl. And that should help the exit ramps off the North 15 into downtown Las Vegas, because even Project Neon didn't do a whole lot to fix that.
Yeah, there's actually one almost secret exit that's rideshare only, that's behind the Punk Rock Museum, that has turned out to be like a saving grace for us downtown, but we're often the only people using that exchange that costs so much.
Right, the Neon Gateway that people go, what's that?
Yeah.
I love the Neon Gateway.
Nate Tannenbaum, absolute pleasure. Thank you for being on CityCast Las Vegas.
Thank you, David.
And that's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed the show, go tell a friend. You could also rate the show, leave us one of them fancy reviews, and subscribe to our morning newsletter too. Don't forget, you can support this show and get some great perks by becoming a CityCast Las Vegas neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Till then, stay lucky.